Okay, welcome to Bitrix24 Live. I'm Damien Edwards. We are Interface, Bitrix24 Gold Partners. We're here for 1 hour to answer your questions on any subject area of Bitrix24. Post your questions in the chat window or email them to sales@interface.com. With me, I've got Andy Naylor, our technical manager.
Hi guys, so we're going to be here for the next hour answering any questions that you've got on Bitrix24. So whether you're using the free cloud version of Bitrix or if you are using one of the commercial cloud packages, and also the on-premise, we can show you live on screen the answer to any questions that you may have. We usually start off each session with questions that have been posted to us throughout the week. Now, if a question does come to you during the week, please do send them to sales@interface.com and we can start the next session off with those. I do believe Damien you've got some that's come in.
Okay. When I associate a task with a CRM company, where can I view all the tasks associated to that company? Let's have a look. If we've got any set up. So you can see, if you go into a company, you should be able to see your tasks, any tasks. Here we've got one here. So if it's a live task, that's an open task, it will appear in your planned activity section. Should be able to open up that task from the company page as well. So it's down here. You can close the task by ticking it, closing it down. So anything like tasks or outbound calls or meetings that you've got booked in that are open appeared in this plans section.
Yeah, I think as well, if you ever wanted to look at it from the tasks point of view, so in your tasks menu on the left hand side, and then we go into the list view, you can also see any, if we were to show it, for example, here, we have, for example, if you want to show lead, company and contact, click on apply, and then you'll be able to see here the tasks that are associated to a particular lead. And in this case, the one that Damien's just looked at, TechCo. So if we were to click on that, we'd go back to the location. So you can do it the other way if you wanted to. You can have a look, and I do believe you'll be able to filter those as well. Or maybe you won't actually, they aren't in the particular filter. So you would just have to show them within this particular section on here.
Okay, is it possible to approve / decline expenses from a project in an email rather than entering Bitrix? So let's have a look what we've got set up. I don't think we've got any set up that does this. I suppose if you're looking at something like a workflow, don't have any expenses in here. Purchase request, expenses report. So we have a business process. I think this is a standard process that's shipped with Bitrix, and I think essentially it allows someone to put in a request for a request for an expense that they are either requesting or that they've already spent, and you can customize this form, but I think it sends out an approval for somebody. It will create, and it's gone to this user here, it will generate a workflow. Let's open up our workflows. We'll generate a workflow for this person, so it will appear in their assignments page, and we'll have something like this: approve expenses, and they'll be able to open this up and accept or refuse that item. I think the process might then change the status. I'm not too sure of the request. Can you approve this in an email? You can't have standard, I don't think. No, you couldn't. You can't have a link. I mean, you can send an email out and it will link to this page, and then they can approve it in this page either on the desktop app or in the mobile app. But doing it in an email, we have done custom processes that allow you to approve things by clicking a link on an email. That said, I mean, you could do automation. There is a standard action block inside the automation that, let's just have a look at something. I don't know if it's available in tasks. It's available in the CRM. So a quick look in the CRM and automation rules. And I mean, this is a little bit off subject in a sense because it's not a workflow, but you have this email link clicked. So you could do something a bit different with either task or lead automation, sending out an email, and if that link's clicked, that could change the status. So if you could use something slightly different than workflows, then you could do it using that action block.
Got a question that's come through. How do I see the total time spent by employees by task? I can see time clocked in, but we make them click into specific tasks we want to measure. So there's a couple of different ways to do this. So when you create a task, you can decide whether you want to, let's call this time task. And I'm sure you might be aware of this, but if we click into the more section here, we first of all have the ability to set the amount of planned time on a given task. So let's just say that this one is going to say 10 hours, and we're going to make the person responsible John Smith. So now that I've created that, if we click into the view here, what that time planning does is give you the ability to start and stop the time tracker. So you can see the estimated 10 hours that you've put against this task. Then the responsible employee can then start the time tracker, and it will start counting up there. And then we can click on pause. If we just come out of here and just click on the refresh and just go back to our time task, what you'll see then is the time that has been logged in the time elapsed tab here. So you can see 13th of February, 3:09 p.m. John Smith has logged 6 seconds of time. And again, because I'm the responsible person, I can say wrote introduction. Click on that. It allows you then to track the amount of time and put a note against it. That's one way of logging time against tasks with the time tracker starting and stopping. The second one is manually logging time. So if you want to backdate the time that you've spent on a given task, you can simply click on the date, the time, and then put the time in here. So we can say second attempt, click on the little tick arrow, and this marks it with a manual icon. So you can see in here that it's got a little exclamation mark, and it just highlights that the time has been logged manually. So now that you can see here we've logged 1 hour and 6 seconds, that's how we would log time. And then Bitrix gives you then the ability to run reports on that. And there are some standard reports that come with Bitrix, so click into the reports section in tasks. If you don't see it in your top menu, just click on more and you'll see the reports in here. But then you will be able to have here, for example, project time report. Let's see in fact if we can create one. I don't think we actually have one in here, do we? I think if we just jump to the cloud, let's just jump to the cloud version because this does have some of the standard. I think we've removed them on our site. But you can see in here, time spent on projects. Let's just check if this one is going to load. So you can see here, based on these standard reports, and then you can see how much the task that they're working on, how much time that has been logged, and the estimated time here. So I recommend, without us creating a report in this session, I recommend going and having a look at the task reports and seeing the standard tools that are available. And then you can always go in and then edit the report to find the parameters that you want. So you might want a report per employee, and then that would just give you all that employee's tasks and how long that they've spent on it, like this.
Okay, I have a 2-user paid account. We have a deal pipeline setup which I have access to and see, but the second user cannot. What could be the issue? Let's have a look at deal pipelines. So here are your pipelines. You can switch between these pipelines here. You can sort of look in the settings. Where do we find pipelines? Field pipelines. So let's just have a look whether there's any permissions. No. So there's no permissions in terms of when you set the pipelines up themselves. There's no individual permissions on pipelines. If I add a pipeline, all I can do is add a name and a source. So you can't prevent people from accessing individual pipelines. So all the permissions are done inside the settings. So you go to the CRM, go into the settings, and go into permissions here. Click into here, and you need to set permissions on deals themselves. So you'll create or edit an existing role. So you've got 2 people. So I guess actually the first thing you might want to do, I mean, you've only got 2 people, then what you generally do if you're a bigger organization is you create departments, and then you probably use your permissions by departments. You share all deals with everyone in your same department. If you've only got 2 people, you can keep it simple. So edit one of these roles. Let's look at the sales manager role. And if we look on the left-hand side, we've got deals here. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are all the 5 different deal pipelines that exist. You might have more or less pipelines. You have to change the settings for each one of these pipelines, and it can be different for different pipelines. If you want them to see everything, then you need to change the settings for those. In addition, you need to change the settings for each stage you have on those pipelines. So this one at the top, we have a lot of different stages for that deal. And across the top are the levels of access that you can set. So in your case, you want them to see all of them, I guess. So you want read access. So let's say, I mean, you can choose from any of these really, but if you just go all access on that, you can go all the way down, and then you can change that also on add, on update, delete, and export and import if you want to as well. So give them full access to read, add, update, delete, export, etc. If you want to restrict anything, restricting delete, you can do that. They'd be able to see them. They'd be able to see the deals. They'd be able to add content to the deals, change the deals, but not delete them. So create your permissions, and there's quite a lot to do because you need to do it for each pipeline and for each stage in each pipeline.
So I think once you set it though, don't you, initially, I think you can just, rather than going into each stage with only being 2 of you, I think you would just set it at the top level and that's your access throughout then. I think I would do it like that. It's not too difficult, is it?
So once you save that role, you just then need to give yourself and that other user access to that role. So if you're just 2 of you, go to users, select the user, click select. So this is the user. We want to give them access to that sales manager role. So just click on sales manager, save that, and they'll have that access level.
Is it possible to generate a task from template using automation rules? I don't think you can. I mean, there's in a couple of areas for example, the CRM. I don't believe you can use an already created task template. I've not seen it yet. So I think what you would have to do is theoretically use this as your task template. Because you're only going to have to do it once, then it's the only way of doing it. You couldn't select a template here, unfortunately. So you would have to classify this as your automation task template because it's going to be generated each time. And I'm sure you're aware that you can pull in any fields from the wherever your automation, whether it be in a lead or whether it be in a deal. You can pull in information just by the click of a button here. So you can't in that case, and I think it's still the same as well in the task automation. I don't think you can create a task using a template that you may have created. So again here, it's exactly the same. So you would have to classify this as your automation task template rather than having it use one of the pre-built templates that you may have built already. So you can still get the same outcome, it just means you have to do it twice, unfortunately.
Okay. How do I create a project in Business Process Template Editor? You can do that. We've got one set up here, I think. Go to Companies. So we've got a business process that creates a project from a company in a CRM, which is a good use case, I think. So I'm in a company, we've won a new project from this business. I can select this business process here called Create Project. What it does is ask me some questions about the name of the project, who's going to be the manager of the project. It also asks me some information about milestone tasks and things in there. So you can customize. I'll show you how you customize this form. You don't necessarily need to use a form. If you just want to run a process to create a project, it can pull information in from the company, copying the company name or something as the project name. But once we've processed that, I think it sends us a workflow. So just reorder these, and here it is. Approval required. You've been assigned a new project. Please accept. And in this case, it's adding us to add an estimated completion day. Let's just complete this, and then I'll show you how. Say we're going to complete that tomorrow. We'll accept that as a project, and that's complete. If we go into our work groups, you'll see what we called it. But you will see that that business process has created, this is the project, added some members. Those milestones we've turned into tasks within the project, and that's it. So it creates a project from a form using a business process. Let's have a look at the business process. If we go into CRM and settings and into automation and business processes and to the templates in the companies where we created it. So you create a new template, you won't have any, they won't exist for you, but I'll show you what we've created. So this this has an approval process, action block here. So this is what created the assignment and the request for the project manager to accept this project. Don't need to have that. That's what we had. Here's a notification to say it's been approved. This is the action block that creates the work group. So project or work group, similar things. So you use this action block to create. It's in the right hand side here. You find it in here. It's called Create Work Group, and you can use that to create a work group. You don't need to have, like I say, you don't have this approval section. These are the bits that create the tasks. You don't need to have that as well, but this is the one that you want. Create work group. Just go into the settings, then you can see does it allow us to create a work group or project? Can't specify a project. So there's a slight difference between a work group and a project. A project has a deadline to it. A work group is an open-ended group without a finish date to it. So you can't actually create a project, but you can create a work group using this action block. So that's it. That's it. You would create a business process, and you'll just use this block. If you want, what you can do. Oops, not that one. What you can do when you create the work group, you've got to give it a name, group name. You could just pull in company name or something as the work group name. If you're not using a form to collect additional information, just bring in that. We have on this one used a form. The forms form questions are within, let me just show that again. Sorry, template parameters, and then parameters here. and you can add a parameter. Essentially, a parameter is a field that requests more information that you can then use as part of the process. So what we've got is name. So we're asking them what the name of the project's going to be in the form, then we're using that name to name as the name of the project. We're asking who's going to be the manager of it, and then some information about what we're going to do, what we're going to name these tasks we're adding. So you can create these form fields, they're called parameters, under this tab.
Just to point out, for this editor tool, you do need to be on a commercial package. I think you do need to be on the professional, I do believe. So we showed you how to manually run and create a project from a company. If you did want to run the same process, for example, when a deal hits a particular stage, then you can do so, because all you would need, again, you need to be on a commercial package. But if you click into the automation rules and click in here, you'll see this edit in Workflow Designer. So you could actually do exactly the same thing, what we've just shown you, in a particular deal stage. So maybe when a deal has been won, we can automatically have it create that particular project. So that might be useful. So you've got a question. One pipeline can be redirected to another pipeline across a tunnel, but the tunnel can have a condition to select which in the pipeline created is the next step. So yeah, for those of you that know, we have sales funnels and tunnels. So you can see in here, if we have multiple pipelines, then we can hit a particular stage and start it in another pipeline. So if I'm in the reseller pipeline here, once it hits the payment stage, it's essentially going to create a copy of the original deal and put it into the recruitment. Now, if I just show you what that does, so if I just go into the reseller one here, you can see here it's added it to the payment. And this is what the pipeline tunnel does. It uses the copy deal. Now, if I click into here, we can actually then click on change and add whichever condition that you wanted in here. So that's how you would add a condition on a particular tunnel. So you can see here, condition, currency equals pound, then we move to recruitment, and then you could move it to a particular stage in that recruitment process. So that's how you would add a condition onto a tunnel in any given pipeline. And the alternate way is when it drops into the recruitment, you could then have a condition to do whatever you want in here based on, so let's say, schedule a call, and we could have a condition again in here. So your condition tools are within your automation rules section.
Okay, is there a way I can collect data for attendance of a group of clients we have every week and then create reports later? So there's different ways you could store that information depending on what you want to do with it. I suppose if we just looked at a list. So if you go into your services section, then let's look at we've got a list here. So you could create a list.
I would probably create one. Maybe create one on here instead. I think we have. We created one.
All right. Okay. We've got not anything like that. Let's create one called client meeting. And give it a name, client meeting. So once you've created it, you create the list. You need to then create the fields. Click into actions and customize fields. And we're going to add a field, and the first one is going to be client.
I would probably call that one something else, just because you always have to have a name field, don't you? So I'd maybe rename the name field to client, and then
I was going to associate it with the CRM, bind to CRM items. So if we bind to CRM, give the option to be able to bind to a company, allow us to then select a company. If you want a free text, you could do that, but just if you're using the CRM, it might be better to do that. Let's just put in there a date field as well. In fact, you could just use created on date, and then you don't need to type the date in. Save that. Let's go back and let's just show these fields. You click in the settings. Okay, they're all showing. Got client. I've got name and date in there. Don't need sections. Let's take that out. So you can then add your meeting. So meeting is, you might want to give it a description, but you can select. In fact, we should have put this in as a multi-set, multiple clients. Maybe you putting this in as a multi-select, so you can select additional, more than one client. And then when we save it, you've got client meeting, there's this client there, and this is the date. You can have any additional fields here. So it might be, depending on what you want to do with it, using a list might be the right thing to do. You've asked about whether we can report on it. You could then filter by things like date and client. So you could select your client, see how many meetings they've attended, or you could just select by date range, whatever fields you're using inside you have inside these list items. You can use as a filter to be able to generate your report. Essentially, I think you can export to Excel if you wanted to do that. So it's a filter rather than a report, but yeah, it depends what you want to do. That might do it for you. It might be better to do something inside the CRM where you create a deal or something like that against the client instead. But one way of storing that sort of information.
Another question, we are using deal pipelines for our internal pipelines that start after we close a deal. These include product and service delivery to our customers for each stage, require interaction with multiple departments. Is this the intended use for custom pipelines, or are we doing it wrong? It's definitely one use that you can use it for. We've seen a whole range of different uses for deal pipelines. It's a great way of following a process from start to finish. So once you've, like you say, you've won the deal, you close the deal out, you could then tunnel it to a service pipeline, and you could tunnel it to a product pipeline as well, and then have a process to, like you say, have interaction, have the automation in place for that process, for maybe an after sales process, that you could create tasks for different departments. The other way of doing it is once you close the deal out in a particular pipeline, you could, and it all depends on how extensive your after sales is, but you could create a work group like we've shown you, and then house all the tasks that are needed to be created for that particular project after a deal's closed. But with regards to deal pipelines, yeah, we've seen many clients of ours use pipelines for after closing a deal, following a process, because it has the most automation rules in there. Gives you quite a lot of flexibility, doesn't it, to add tasks, communication. You can even communicate back to the client using that automation.
I'm located in America, and I like the look of Bitrix24 Cloud. Where is my data hosted? So if you sign up from the US, it will detect you're located in the US, and it will your account will be created automatically on a US-based server. Same exists. Same as if you're in the UK. If you're mainland Europe, then your data will be held in the server in Europe. So it will automatically host your data locally.
Yeah, I had a question come through. Will Bitrix allow a client to select an available appointment on the calendar defined by the Bitrix user, similar to Calendly? So I'm not too familiar with Calendly, but yeah, so Bitrix in the CRM gives you a field that's called Book a Resource. Now, if I click into the settings here and then go to Form and Report Settings, and then Custom Fields. Oh. Let's have a look. So yeah, Custom Fields. And then if we go into our lead fields here, let me see if it's on. I did set something up with regards to our, yeah, it's on here. So Form and Report Settings, Custom Fields, in Leads, we have a field type that's called book a resource. Now if I click into this here, it's simple, just select the type, book a resource, give it a name, Bitrix24 live booking, and then we can use it. So the good way of putting it on your website for somebody to book availability that you set for different sessions is that if we go into a CRM form here, and let's have a look at, I set up a CRM form previously, so let's look into this here, edit, and on my form I've got book your Bitrix24 training today. On the right hand side are the fields, so I can drag fields in from a lead, so first name, last name, and then I can also bring in the Bitrix24 live booking, so that's book a resource. And what you can do here, so you can see these fields appear in the list, and what you can do here is have select, we've got select trainer, and we can specify who we want to select, and I'll show you that in a moment. We can select training length, and again we can have different lengths, so our training can go from 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 1 day, and so on and so forth. And then we have a calendar. So this is going to reflect the calendar of the specific trainer that the user selects here. So if I just click on the little gear icon, you can see here that we have employees, and I can select all the employees that I want to include in here. So maybe we include Jake, Damien, and Andy. So we've got 4 employees. And then we've got services. So we select from the list, and we only have 1 in here. We just have a 60-minute appointment. And then we can specify what type of calendar we're going to show them. So on the right hand side we have a strict calendar, and again time slots are going to display like that. We can have different formats, pop-up calendars from the first available date. We can tailor and customize it how we need. So if I click on finish customization, click on save, and then let's have a look at what that particular form would look like. So you can embed this on your site if you wanted to. It doesn't have to be a Bitrix public form. If you wanted to embed it, just copy the embed code on here. Let's have a look at what this looks like in terms of our booking appointments. So you can see if I click Max Smith, I can click Jake, I can click Damien, and I can click Andy. If they had, you can see today we only go until 6 p.m. So if we click on the next day, it gives available time slots. We can select it, and then it tells us you selected Friday the 14th of February 12 till 1. Click on send. That will then generate a lead, and then you can base your automation on sending a confirmation email back if it's come from this particular lead. So this is how you set it up, and then once you submit this form, it will generate a lead. So if I said and I'll book in with Max, and I'll book 12 p.m. tomorrow, click send. That will then submit. You can see here we have a notification that a new form has arrived in Bitrix, and you can see here, I think we should say 5 seconds ago, and then you will be able to see here we've got a time that's booked in. So that's how you would do it, and then you can have that probably create a deal, because it would be a confirmed booking essentially, but that's exactly how you should set it up on here. If you did want to add resources, you saw the 60-minute, if you want to add services, you saw the 60-minute one there, we only offer 1. You can add multiple resources on here, so if we had a 30-minute, and so on and so forth. So you can style up your booking a resource forms and tailor them to meet your requirements.
Okay, can we get a coupon code? We are a small startup in Mexico. So Bitrix is available free of charge for small businesses. If you want a commercial package, then I think it's start from $19 a month. If you want to check the Bitrix24 website tomorrow, Valentine's Day, then there might be an offer on for Valentine's Day, very likely. So I would wait until tomorrow for best prices. I'm thinking of customizing my on-premise license. Will this prevent me from having annual system updates to my license? So it depends really. It's go into our on-premise edition, click into the control panel at the top, show you how updates work. You go into Marketplace, Platform Update here, then you will see under the Updates tab all the available updates that you have to install on your system. Customizing your on-premise edition won't prevent you from updating it, but obviously if you do some customization, there's a chance that they will be affected by any updates that you then apply to the system. So you can't say whether those updates are going to cause you any problems or not. Depends on what the customizations are and what the updates are doing. So you should work with a partner, I think, to manage that. We often deploy a development site to apply updates to first of all, which allow you to then test how those updates are affecting your customizations. Also, if you do the customizations in the right way with using separate templates, then you can prevent any updates from affecting your customizations. But it all depends what you're trying to do, really, I think. But yeah, you need to be careful that customizing it. Obviously, if you're going to configure anything from the front end, like creating custom fields and etc., the standard settings, then they're not going to be affected in any way by updates. But if you're going into, as you can do with the self-hosted, if you're going into the files and folders inside here, and you're editing, any of these PHP files that that run the system, then you are essentially going to, cause updates are potentially going to cause you some problems.
Got another question that came through. Is there a specific storage size required for the on-premise license? So it's quite a hard question to answer, but there should be at least, we usually partition it into, so we have a 20 gig for your system files and your database. So we have 20 gig for that. And then obviously it then depends on what you want to host on Bitrix. So if you're using it for your main document management resource, which you can with Bitrix24 Drive, then you're obviously going to need more storage space. So it is dependent on client to client. Our normal setup for setting up an on-premise would be 20 gigabytes for the system files in the database, and then an additional 80 then for your storage. That's where we would start off as a minimum, and then we can go up to obviously terabytes and store things in different drive partitions. So yeah, it's an open-ended result, really.
Mm-hmm. Can I have multiple project managers in one project? So if we look into a project group, and you can see these are the owners and the members of the project on the right hand side. Got 3 levels: the owner, the assistants, and the general members. Within the members you can have extranet users as well. Those are your clients or suppliers. This is an extranet user. So you can have more than one, you'll have one project owner. You can only have one project owner, but you can have more than one project assistant. So these could be your project managers. And then you can see, you can change who is, if you have permissions. If I was the owner, you need to be the owner to change who's a moderator of the system, but essentially they can add content and remove content from the system.
I had a question that's come through saying, can we integrate a task with an email? Yeah, that certainly you can do that. So if you have connected your webmail up, quite straightforward to show you this aspect. You can see here that we have some emails that are in here. If you click on the actual next to where you received the email and click on create task, you can see then it will embed the email in with the task, and then you can create the task from there. You don't have to give it that particular subject, but yeah, that would then place the email into a task for the person to then work from that. So it's quite straightforward.
Okay, I want to take attendance numbers for weekly conferences. All attendees would be clients. Is there a way I can use Bitrix for this? as I need to report on numbers monthly. So I mean, like we looked at inside the list, then you can create an additional field. I mean, it might not be, it might or might not be right for you. I'm not too sure. I mean, Bitrix doesn't really do that sort of conference management. Isn't really conference management software. So you're really just customizing.
I would probably do it a different way around. Maybe instead of having a list for, like having an entry for one client meeting, have a list per meeting, and then you would click into the meeting itself as a list, and you would have a list of all the attendees. That way, then you could see a total for each meeting that you create, and then you could export.
Yeah, or you could use a I think this is consecutive numbering. Counter, yeah. So you could use this counter field, and that would then give you an actual field with the number. I don't know if that's going to be that useful for you. Each one's going to have its own number, and then you could sort by a bit like Andy says. You can see just how many items there are in the list. So you create a new list per.
I think maybe
per conference.
Maybe one of the good things with doing that, how Damien set it up with bind to the CRM items, and let's just say instead of companies, let's just say contacts appear. What you could do there then is if you went into the CRM and did it this way, so we went into contacts and went into Bob Taylor here, we would be able to see the client meeting list that we've just created in each client, and then we would click on here, click into, I don't know, you probably wouldn't need the name field, but we would just say, I don't know, Bob, click on save, and then you can see all the meetings that Bob has attended. I would probably have this as meeting name actually, or maybe have it pre-filled out. So you would be able to go into each client in the CRM and see what meetings they've attended, and then if you went back to the list, you would be able to then go into the actual meeting and see the other way around here. So you've got Bob and Bob Taylor. So that's probably the best way of doing it, and the only really way of doing it inside Bitrix.
Yeah. Can I integrate email into a task? So you've done that, have we? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Does Bitrix use two-step authentication? So you can download an app that and enable it so that users are required to users are required to enter a passcode generated from the app when they log in. So yes, you can have that. If you want to use that.
Yeah, and you can also set this if you wanted to set it on a site-wide as well. So if you went into the system settings, and if you wanted to force people to use the Bitrix two-step authentication, you can see here we can make it mandatory for all users, and you can switch that on, and then you can set a time period when they've got to download the application by. So if you wanted to force it on everybody, you obviously have to be an administrator to be able to set that, but yeah, it's a good way of doing it.
Okay, we don't have any more questions as it stands. So if you want to, sometimes you want to send some questions over, but if you want to get in touch with us afterwards, we can contact you and do a one-to-one session with you to explain the benefits of explain how Bitrix might benefit your business. Go to email sales@intraface.com, and if you subscribe to Intraface on YouTube, then you'll receive notifications about live sessions and webinars. We can set up a one-to-one demo for you. We will try to understand in a bit of detail what it is you're trying to get out of the system. We'll demo those specific requirements to you.
Got a question there. Where is the best collection of information to learn about the back end? So if you're on about the back end of the on-premise, which I'm sure you are, then I would just Google Bitrix24 self-hosted advanced and then you'll come across a long list of lessons to take. So it's Bitrix24 on self-hosted advanced. If you Google that, you'll come across all the training on the Bitrix24 website. If you need training on it, please do get in touch. We use the on-premise quite a lot here. It's our primary tool that we use, so please do get in touch.
Okay, so I think we'll end it there. We don't have any more questions. So subscribe to us and you'll get notifications about when we go live. We're youtube.com/intraface, INTREFACE. That's all we have for now. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.